Hello again, everyone. Wade for the Kingdom Report, back with you once again to cover all the latest Disney news from coast to coast and around the world. Make sure you are subscribed to this channel with that notification bell turned on so you never miss a Disney news update. As soon as we have one ready to drop, as long as that notification bell is turned on, you will be updated ASAP in order to stay informed. Here's what's happening. It has finally occurred. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on Friday signed a bill that strips the Walt Disney Company of its self-governing authority in the state after its opposition to a new law that limits the teaching of gender identity and sexual orientation for younger grades in schools. The USA Today reports that the Walt Disney Company has been silent this past week over the Florida legislators' action to repeal the Reedy Creek Improvement District. That's the governing structure for Disney's Orlando area properties. That silence leaves much unknown about how Disney will respond and what its next steps will be. Under the legislation, the move would take effect in June 2023. The legislators' action came in response to Disney criticism over the Parental Rights and Education Act that Governor Ron DeSantis signed into law in March. The measure includes provisions that limit instruction about gender identity and sexual orientation in grades K through 3. The company responded to the fallout from Disney employees and stockholders, both in an open letter to employees and during the company's annual stockholders meeting. DeSantis and lawmakers took notice. Here is what transpired. Disney Chief Executive Officer Bob Chapek has taken criticism in recent months for some employees and shareholders over what his critics felt was Disney's muted response in opposing the Parental Rights and Education Act. Chapek last month sent a message addressed to Disney employees, especially the LGBTQ+ community, about the legislation, saying, quote, "Speaking to you, reading your messages, and meeting with you have helped me better understand how painful our silence was. It is clear that this is not just an issue about a bill in Florida, but instead, yet another challenge to basic human rights. You needed me to be a stronger ally in the fight for equal rights, and I let you down. I am sorry. We need to use our influence to promote that good by telling inclusive stories, but also by standing up for the rights of all," close quote. So why was Disney initially silent in its opposition to the legislation? Well, Chapek read a statement at the company's annual stockholders meeting explaining that tactic, saying, quote, "We were opposed to the bill from the outset, but we chose not to take a public position on it, because we thought we could be more effective working behind the scenes, engaging directly with lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. And we were hopeful that our long-standing relationships with those lawmakers would enable us to achieve a better outcome. But despite weeks of effort, we were ultimately unsuccessful. Certainly the outcome in Florida was not what many of us were hoping for, especially our LGBTQ+ employees," close quote. So how did the Disney stockholders react? Well, some stockholders on both sides of the issue were not pleased with the company's efforts and expressed those views during the shareholder question and answer portion of the meeting. One stockholder questioned why Chapek and a group of LGBTQ+ employees were planning to meet with DeSantis when the governor's views were clear on the legislation. Another read into the meeting record comments from his daughter, a Disney employee who felt the company did not do enough to fight the legislation, should not have donated to politicians who supported the bill, and does not have enough of an LGBTQ+ representation in its mainstream Disney shows and movies. She termed Disney's initial efforts on the legislation, quote, "beyond disappointing." So what did Disney's CEO Bob Chapek say about those criticisms? He said, quote, "I think all the participants in today's call can see how difficult it is to try to thread the needle between the extreme polarization of political viewpoints we have as shareholders. Certainly, our shareholders follow the general distribution of our audience in general and America and the globe in terms of having different points of view," close quote. So what does Disney plan to do now? Well, Chapek has announced a multifaceted approach to addressing the issues. Among its efforts, Disney is taking action to combat the spread of legislation like the Parental Rights and Education Act, approved by the Florida's legislator and signed into law by DeSantis. Chapek said Disney is increasing its support for advocacy groups to combat similar legislation in other states, including signing the Human Rights Campaign's statement opposing such legislative efforts. pledging $5 million to organizations working to protect LGBTQ+ rights, working to create a new framework for our political giving that will ensure our advocacy better reflects our values, he said, and halting political donations in Florida pending this review. Once again, our thanks to USA Today for that story. And for those of you wondering how this revoke of the Reedy Creek Improvement District, the Disney World self-governing body, is going to have ramifications, is going to impact the counties that the Walt Disney World Resort sits on, well, NPR writes the following, saying that the bill that was just signed would undercut Disney's autonomy, but it could impose a steep cost on Orange and Osceola counties where the theme park is located. The two counties would inherit the Disney district's debts, which officials say would result in higher taxes. Here's a quick rundown of the situation. Disney gained near total control over its theme parks and resorts and other attractions in 1967 when the state designated the area as the Reedy Creek Improvement District. The land measures 25,000 acres, nearly 40 square miles, in Central Florida. Disney operates like a county government, building and maintaining municipal services like electricity, water, and roads, and providing police and fire protection. It even taxes itself. The setup was intended to give Disney autonomy while also relieving the counties of paying for new services and infrastructure in what was once a remote and rural area. But Reedy Creek's status is poised to change now that DeSantis has signed the bill, which targets it and 5 other independent special districts that were created before 1968. So we'd like to point out here that it isn't just the Walt Disney World property that this has happened to. The Florida Senate's own financial impact analysis of the bill states that in most cases, when a county takes over a special district, it, quote, shall all assume all indebtedness of the pre-existing special district, close quote. In Disney's case, that could put local governments on the hook for about $1 billion in bond debt. The state Senate's analysis concluded that the bill would have an intermediate fiscal impact on residents and businesses in special districts, as well as on local governments that will assume debts and assets. The change promises to shake up the local tax picture, according to Scott Randolph, a Democrat who is the Orange County tax collector, saying, quote, if Reedy Creek goes away, the $105 million it collects to operate services goes away. That doesn't just transfer to Orange County because it's an independent taxing district. However, Orange County then inherits all debt and obligations with no extra funds, close quote. Disney also taxes itself around $53 million each year to service its debt obligations, Randolph said. The situation quickly prompted warnings that county property taxes will sharply rise. Citing an interview with Randolph, Danielle Prayer of member station WMFE in Orlando reports, quote, homeowners here could see property taxes jump by 20% to make up the difference. And even then, it probably wouldn't be enough to cover all the money that would be lost, close quote. The Florida legislature needed just 3 days to introduce and approve the bill, which DeSantis requested on Tuesday as part of the special session that was initially called to deal with the state's redistricting effort. Disney wields great influence in Florida, and it donated to DeSantis during the 2020 election cycle, but the company didn't agree with his policies on COVID-19 vaccine requirements or face coverings. The growing rift deepened this spring as DeSantis accused the entertainment giant of embracing woke viewpoints. As mentioned, the new bill would formally take effect on July 1st, but its sweeping changes wouldn't come into force until next summer on June 1st, 2023. That's when the 6 special districts targeted by lawmakers are slated to be dissolved, giving Orange and Osceola counties new responsibilities. Quote, Disney was in charge of ambulance services and fire services, so if someone has a heart attack or a car accident, now it's up to the county to figure out how to handle that and how to foot the bill, WMFE reports. Also, Disney now will need approval before it expands on all of its wonderful theme parks, hotels, restaurants, and new rides. There's a lot of red tape now involved. Questions remain about how the new bill will work and how it will affect the local governments. It's also possible Disney's and other affected independent districts will be able to work out a new arrangement before the formal changeover. The legislation expressly states that the districts can be, quote, reestablished on or after June 1st, 2023, close quote, the date that they would be dissolved, as long as they comply with state laws. Once again, thanks to NPR for that story. And now you are up to date. For more Disney Parks news and information, make sure you are subscribed to the channel with the notification bell firmly rung. And if we've earned it, a thumbs up means an awful lot. For the Kingdom Report, I'm Wade Heath. We'll see you next time for another installment of the Disney News Update.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.